For more on these latest developments, we have with us Dr. Bong Young-shik from the Yonsei Institute for North Korean Studies. It's good to have you back on the show.
Good to be here.
So as we heard from that report, it seems that Trump has sent a letter to Kim Jong-un last weekend. We don't know exactly what was in the letter, but we know it was delivered apparently by hand, by plane to Pyongyang. What do you think would have been in the letter?
Well, I mean, we can only make some speculations about the actual content of the letter, but this is a good sign because in the era of the internet and the SNS, and for a president who likes to just send tweeters to the entire nation and the world, sending personal letter by hand is a good sign that United States is also very serious about making the second summit with Supreme Leader of North Korea, take place. So I think the groundwork is being laid by both leaderships.
And it definitely seems like after the new year, with this kind of continuation of this letter diplomacy that they engaged in last year as well, that things really are picking up speed for the next North Korea-U.S. summit.
Right. But we cannot underestimate the hurdles lying in front of the leaderships in Pyongyang and Washington. It is good that both leaders are likely going to get together to deal with all these problems lying between them. But at the same time, as we have witnessed for the entire year of 2018, actually carrying out the agreements in details is still very, very challenging to both leaderships. So meeting taking place is, of course, a welcome sign, but at the same time, we have to wait and see how. After the second summit meeting between North Korea and the United States, things will actually play out to help realize important goals for both sides. For North Korea is ending the hostility between North Korea and the United States and setting normalization between the two adversaries. And for United States, apparently achieving a verified and complete denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula.
As you mentioned, the fact that he sent a letter from this president who normally does tweet everything, does that perhaps suggest that there was something more discreet that he wanted to send to Kim Jong-un?
I think so. North Korean leadership wants two things. Of course, the top priority for North Korean leadership is to escape from the existing sanction regime, at least in partial way. And in addition to that goal, North Korean leadership needs to, deal with its security concern, the so-called hostile policy of the United States, aiming at the collapse of the republic in North Korea. So North Korean leadership is going to try at least one of these two goals in the upcoming second summit meetings, and in exchange, the United States would be going to pressure Kim Jong-un leadership to fulfill additional concrete steps toward the, full, final and fully verified denuclearization of North Korea. So I guess so-called negotiations to accomplish kind of a small deal as opposed to a big deal lying between the two countries must be the part of the content of the letters being exchanged between the two leaderships.
On the back of these letters as well, now we're hearing reports that the senior North Korean official, Kim Yong-chol, is on his way to New York to hold talks with his U.S. counterpart, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, and that could happen as early as this Thursday, reportedly. But we've been down this road before. We've had talks where they said they're going to meet, it hasn't happened. Do you think it will happen this time? And what do you think they will talk about? Do you think it'll just be about setting the dates for the North Korea-U.S. summit, or will they actually have more discussions about the specifics of denuclearization, do you think?
Well, I think the focus will be setting the date and venue of the second summit meeting because Mr. Kim Yong-chol is not a professional diplomat or expert on nuclear or missile matters. He is a trusted government official by supreme leadership, but he himself does not have the expert knowledge or diplomatic skills to get to the details of the likely agendas that will be put on the table between U.S. President Donald Trump and his boss, Mr. Kim Jong-un, in the second summit meeting. So I guess his main mission is to prepare for the second summit meeting, not actually, tighten the bolts about the agendas that will be negotiated between the two leaders. But that's a good sign because this is the basic framework agreed by both leaderships. Important matters will be decided by top leaders, and officials at the working level will carry out the detailed aspects of the big agreements forged by the two leaders.
At the same time, there's also, we also know that North Korea's Vice Foreign Minister, Choi Sun-hee, is on her way to Sweden for an international conference. And there's also speculation that there she'll meet with the U.S. Special Representative on North Korea, Stephen Biegun. And that is a meeting that has been long in the works. Maybe they'll finally meet after they were set to meet last year. But that meeting never materialized either. Do you think what are the chances they will actually finally meet this time here in Sweden?
Yeah, the chance that they will be finally meeting this time is very high because it was a very perplexing that North Korean government avoided any meeting with Stephen Biegun, appointed by the Trump administration as a point of the contact representing the U.S. government, because Mr. Kim Jong-un, as a supreme leader of North Korea, actually vowed that he would arrange working level meetings between North Korean government and the U.S. government to carry out the details of Singapore summit meeting. But the supreme leader's promises were never carried out. That's a very unusual for the political system like North Korea. So we can make some educated guesses about why working level meetings involving Mr. Stephen Biegun, have not happened. One, hypothesis is that Kim Jong-un was never serious about, making this working level, meetings, take place. He just want to play the good cop and making Kim Yong-chol, a bad cop, delaying or even stopping any working level meetings with the United States. But as North Korea has been engaging in the delaying tactics, the sanctions remain in place, and North Korean economy has not, escaped from very difficult situations. So I believe that Kim Jong-un reached the kind of a tipping point to make the decision that this time we are going to actually negotiate with Washington once again. So it is the right time for, North Korean government officials to actually have, serious negotiation with their U.S. counterparts.
But the thing is, they were meant to meet months ago, Stephen Biegun and Choi Sun-hee. And so, for all signs suggest that North Korea have not wanted those two to meet. I mean, but the question is, do they really need to meet? Because normally with North Korea, so far that we've seen, is everything has been top down with whether two leaders meet or the high-level talks as well. And there are other supposedly lower-level talks happening as well under the surface. So what do the meeting between Stephen Biegun and Choi Sun-hee, what does that bring to the table?
What will that bring to the table? I would highlight two things. One is that both leadership might have learned good lessons from the Singapore summit meeting that took place last June. That even though big pictures might be agreed by two top leaders, they must have realized that they have to let the working level negotiations a chance to materialize the big picture, so that some summit meetings between top leaderships will not go nowhere. I think that they must have learned some lessons after they had this historical summit meeting in Singapore in June last year. That okay, our job is to make the roadmap, but in order for our roadmap to actually get materialized, we have to mobilize the working level negotiations. Otherwise, then we can't just have serious summit meetings every year. The second thing is that this is a good sign that working level meetings are going to take place between North Korea and the United States, meaning that North Korea cannot just solely rely on communication with the White House alone. It has to deal with working level government officials like Special Representative Mr. Stephen Biegun in order to keep the ball moving in the direction that would help realize North Korea's own preferred goals and interests.
So we're narrowing down the details of, what this denuclearization deal will look like. And earlier you mentioned the difference between a small deal and a big deal. A big deal is where, there's full denuclearization and full lifting of sanctions. But that, at the moment, seems unlikely and unrealistic. Right now, there's talk of a small deal where North Korea gives some sort of concessions to the U.S., maybe a nuclear facility here and there, and the U.S. gives some sort of concession towards sanction as well, just easing of sanctions. Do you think that's probably the most realistic path we're looking at for now?
I would belong to the camp of people who would be very cautious about this small deal. Because off the top of your head, you might just consider small deals are small steps toward the ultimate destination. But we have to caution ourselves whether a small deal is not small deal, but small deal will not, or small deal will eventually lead to the big deal, but small deal may make it permanently impossible for North Korea and the United States and other countries actually achieve the big goal, the final and fully verified denuclearization on North Korea. Because we have been on this road before. It was not called a small deal, but it was called as an early harvest approach. Because getting the complete denuclearization of North Korea is such a big goal, in the past, the U.S. government chose the early harvest approach that we have to just make a small achievement so that we're going to use them as a building block to build trust, mutual trust. And it is better than gaining nothing about denuclearization of North Korea. So example of the fruit of this early harvest approach by the Bush administration was North Korea's agreement to destroy the cooling tower in Yongbyon. But what happened after that? Nothing. North Korea's WMD capability and nuclear weapon material have increased, not decreased. So small deal may just create the hole, all those small hole on a water dam. And once the floodgate is open and economic sanction loses its pressure on North Korea, North Korean leadership may find it unnecessary to carry out its promises for final and fully verified denuclearization in North Korea. Why would it? If it's free from pressure of economic sanctions, even partially, then its motivation to give up its nuclear weapons and missiles will be weakened, not strengthened. But Moon Jae-in government made a different argument, opposite argument that partial relief of economic sanctions will incentivize its Kim Jong-un leadership to move in the direction of economic prosperity, not reliance upon nuclear weapons. So time will eventually tell if a small deal approach will be chosen by Trump administration in the second summit meeting with Kim Jong-un, whether it would help achieving FFVAD, final and fully verified denuclearization, or it will let North Korea off the hook once again.
Anticipation is definitely finally now building. Anyway, that's all we have time for. Thank you for coming in today and sharing us your thoughts.
You're welcome.